Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Apologies for the lateness. Once again, I do not know how many times I'm going to keep apologizing, but I'll continue to do it because you deserve a better. Anyways, I seem to be catching a cold. It's been nudging me. I thought it would wear off this morning before I got started to this broadcast, but it looks like that, itchy feeling on the throat is not just about to go away. So please indulge me during the course of this broadcast. But also, more importantly, apologies for, we had to cut last night's broadcast quite short. Again, was dealing with an issue. It's a health issue, so I couldn't help it, but leave it at that. But thank you to all those that did manage to catch us last night, and thank you for those that were part of the conversation. Really, really much appreciated. This morning we are back to continue speaking all matter sport. It's always a pleasure to be back. Of course, and we won't waste any further ado, but we will be speaking about Lyon's relegation. We'll be speaking transfers. We'll be speaking about the FIFA Club World Cup. So that and more. So please join me for this morning's conversation on those respective fronts. So yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be discussing this morning. For those of you that will be joining us already, there's a lot that I'm yet to deliver on, given what my promises were to you. But I hope you do bear with me on that regard. Everything should be complete by the end of today. I will endeavor to make sure everything is complete. But we'll start with the update from the FIFA Club World Cup. Because Chelsea into the round of 16, they did qualify from their group following that 3-0 victory against Esperance. So brilliant game of football. I must acknowledge I did not watch it. Like I said, those games that start at 4 a.m. usually are not my cup of tea, bearing in mind what I have to cover in the morning and in the other parts. Then still, yesterday morning, we did experience echoes during our broadcast. It was due to a microphone issue, but we managed to fix that. So please do bear with me on this one. In the meantime, we were able to fix that issue, and I hope I will be delivering better. We'll try to, keep redoing tests during the course of the broadcast to make sure that everything in regards to our audio is quite perfect. So, if you're just joining us, please do me the absolute honor and favor and like the broadcast. But more importantly, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. But also, do let me know what your thoughts are, where you're joining us from this morning, as for this Wednesday morning sports update. Then, of course, like I said, we will start with the FIFA Club World Cup because Chelsea did cruise to a 3-0 victory over Esperance. Those two goals coming in the first half, thanks to Tosin Aderabio heading to the top bottom corner of that Enzo Fernandez free kick, and then Liam Delap there also scoring his first goal in a Chelsea jersey since joining them this summer from Ipswich Town in a £30 million deal. So quite delighted for him, really. He took that ball quite swiftly and he had to dribble past, I think, about two defenders before slotting the ball into the back of the net. Enzo Fernandez, once again, being the provider for that one. He's had quite an immaculate season, really. Enzo Fernandez, he did not have a very good start to the season, but towards the, I think after the halfway point of the season, things started to click for him in terms of providing goals and assists, in terms of being quite pivotal in that Chelsea midfield. So that is with Enzo Fernandez. And perhaps it's because of that very reason that Real Madrid have been reportedly interested in signing the Argentine midfielder who did join Chelsea in January 2023 in a deal believed to be worth about 121 million euros from Benfica. So, anyways, a beautiful action. Then in the 97th minute of the game, it was Tariq George who did who did score the third goal, which was a near icing on the cake as Chelsea saw it out 3-0 over Esperance, with Andre Santos there providing the assist. Now, Andre Santos is another very, very important Chelsea player that we do expect to see in plenty next season, because he did spend last season out on loan to Strasbourg, just like Petrovic, the goalkeeper. Then the other player that will be joining Chelsea will be William Estaval. Do expect that one as well. Another very, very brilliant player there who does play for Pyramides at the moment. But after the FIFA Club World Cup, he will be making the switch to join Chelsea as is expected. So then, of course, the other game did see Los Angeles share the spoils with Flamengo in a 1-1 draw. Bonga are there on target for Los Angeles. Zero Rikram, good to have you back, my brother. Good morning. How are you doing? Is it good morning on your end? I hope it is. And then, of course, Jan there, Jorginho providing the assist as Flamengo found the equalizer. So basically, that's the gist in regards to that group. That is Group D. So Flamengo do advance as the leaders of the group with 7 points, unbeaten. Chelsea do advance with 6 points as the second team. So, of course, Esperance and Los Angeles go home packing. So that means we have confirmed a few fixtures already for the round of 16. We have already confirmed those who are advancing. Inter Miami will be up against Paris Saint-Germain, while Pyramides will play Botafogo there at the round of 16, because it was Pyramides and Inter Miami that advanced from Group A, while Group B had Botafogo and PSG advancing from Group B. Of course, Atletico Madrid and Seattle Sounders sent packing, just like FC Porto and Al Ahly in Group B and A, respectively. As far as Group C is concerned, Benfica, after their 1-0 victory over Bayern Munich, again, that was yesterday. It meant that they do top the group with a tally of 7 points. So that means Benfica will play Chelsea at the round of 16. Benfica will be up against Chelsea, while Bayern Munich will be up against Flamengo at the round of 16, because Flamengo did top Group D, while Chelsea came second, with Esperance or Tunis going home, as well as Los Angeles FC. Auckland City and Boca Juniors did pack their bags from Group C as well. Then, of course, action does continue later today. That's at 10 p.m. East African time, when Borussia Dortmund play Uslan Hyundai. Mamelodi Sundowns will have it all to do against Fluminense. So now the context is that if Mamelodi Sundowns beat up against Fluminense, then they will advance to the round of 16. If they draw, then the chances are they may not. Chances are they won't advance because they need a victory. Borussia Dortmund need to win equally because they have 4 points. Should they have 4 points behind Fluminense in Group F there. Uslan do not have really a chance. They do not have any chance whatsoever to advance. So my expectation is for Dortmund to beat up against Uslan, and then they finish at 7 points. Fluminense and Mamelodi Sundowns could end in a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 draw. That's my sort of expectation. Please forgive my bad voice. It's because I'm catching a cold. Anyways, so that would then mean that Borussia Dortmund and Fluminense then advance to the round of 16, and then unfortunately, Mamelodi will be out, as well as Uslan. The other games will be still in Group G, where Juventus and Manchester City have already advanced to the round of 16. following their opening 2 victories in their opening 2 matches of the group. Of course, Wydad Casablanca and Al Ain, they are yet to win a single game, and those games will be coming at 4 a.m. leading into the morning. Juventus will be up against Man City, while Wydad Casablanca will be up against Al Ain. And then, of course, we'll see it all out when Real Madrid complete their group stage with, of course, they have 4 points, as well as Al Salzburg. Al Ahly and Pachuca are also still in there. Do you have any information on Nwaneri's contract situation? Regarding Ethan Nwaneri, the expectation is that he's next in line to sign after Miles Lewis Kelly penned his contract. From what I do gather, we're simply waiting for an announcement on the part of Miles Lewis Kelly, and Ethan Nwaneri should be next in line. Of course, equally for Ethan Nwaneri, like it was the case with Miles Lewis Kelly, he has been linked with potential suitors that are lacking in the background. It's not been overly publicized, but Arsenal are quite confident that they will get that deal over the line for Ethan Nwaneri. Now, I sort of had an issue about that, given I do not know if you did observe this, but at the tail end of the season, Ethan Nwaneri was being given less and less game time, and it, for me, begged the question: was it about managing the growth of the player that you do not want to, overload him with so many minutes and so much pressure? Because there are games that Arsenal did play, and I thought they could use Ethan Nwaneri, whether as a starter or off the bench, especially in some of those games that Raheem Sterling did start, and yet he wasn't being utilized. Oftentimes, he did not even come off the bench, and given his contract situation, you can never know really, because even youngsters, in some cases, have chosen to drift away from Arsenal. We did see it with Chido Martin Obi, who left for Manchester United, and Aiden Heaven. So I was a bit concerned about it, that maybe is the player considering to leave and things of that nature, but Arsenal are growingly confident that they will get the deal done for Ethan Nwaneri. It's just a matter of when, not if. So that's from what we gather, but I think that should be settled in, maybe the anxiety of Arsenal fans. Arteta sees Nwaneri as backup for Odegaard, but is always unwilling to take off the captain during games. and I do not know why, because during that same spell that we are discussing, Martin Odegaard had some games in which he had underwhelming performances, where you had hoped that maybe now is the time to bring on Ethan Nwaneri. Not that you'd count him to have this drastic change of the game, but to bring in, fresh legs, that fresh bit of energy to run at defenses, to run at opponents, and play an intricate pass or two, because he's capable of doing that. He's capable of dribbling past a player or two, but Mikel Arteta just wasn't looking at him. And by the way, Mikel Arteta has this one thing: if he is unhappy with the player, he will freeze you out, and not like throwing you to the dogs, depending on the situation, but he has a way of, he just won't give you game time. And for me, I sort of felt for Ethan Nwaneri at the time how frustrating it must have been in some way, given how his fellow youngster in Miles Lewis Kelly was getting all the minutes because he was playing. He was a regular starter in his role as a left back. So, and then you look onto yourself and you're wondering, what's the difference between his development and my development, even though we are playing in different parts of the pitch? I mean, why am I not getting the game time? So I felt as though there was something that maybe Mikel Arteta was not telling us about Ethan Nwaneri. Was he carrying some form of minor injury that they were trying to manage? Really, still having him available in matchday squads, that it had to be an emergency for them to have to bring him on. I really did not comprehend the situation to its full extent, but that was my theory around it, because really nothing could justify it. Because usually at the tail end of the season, that's when we are very accustomed to youngsters getting actually more game time. Yes, I understand that Arsenal's end of the season was crucial because they were still fighting to finish in the second place. But you remember that game against that loss against FC Bournemouth. Again, Martin Odegaard was underwhelming in his performance, and you kept on thinking, could Ethan Nwaneri have added something to this game? Again, it just never happened. You remember in the UEFA Champions League, he was never given in a sniff in the semi-finals. Quarterfinals, I do not seem to remember him coming on in games against Real Madrid. So really, it felt a bit sticking for me. I didn't really understand why Mikel Arteta made the decisions that he did make. But if it was about managing his development, I certainly do not agree that, resting the player more and more is what is required, because how is he then supposed to compete with the likes of Lamine Yamal, who at the age of 17 has already celebrated making 100 appearances for Barcelona? So, I mean, we've seen it one too often times. We can look back at the example of Bukayo Saka, how he was a mainstay in that Arsenal team, even at a very, very young age, after being brought on during the reign. I think it was the reign of Unai Emery. He continued to be a major part of the team. Same for Gabriel Martinelli. Yes, the context of the team in terms of squad depth has sort of changed, but we've seen Arsenal rely on youngsters. So why not go ahead and give him the time? So for me, it was a painstaking point for me really to comprehend in regards to Mikel Arteta's choices over Ethan Nwaneri. But at least according to credible reports, it's just a matter of when and not if for Ethan Nwaneri to put pen on paper. And we have that deal over the line. Of course, the other contracts that are being negotiated at Arsenal is to do with Bukayo Saka and William Saliba, as well as Leandro Trossard. His contract is not about extension from what we gather, but more about raising his wages to appreciate his contribution to the team ever since he joined them back in January 2023, coming from Brighton and Hove Albion. So that's what I do gather regarding that contract situation and everything to do with Arsenal on that front. Then briefly, let's go to Lyon. Lyon were relegated by the DNCG. Is that? Yeah, DNCG. Yes, they were relegated. That's the France's football controlling body that monitors clubs and their finances and things of that nature. You say Barca signing another wonder kid in Ronny Badge from Copenhagen. Yes, they are signing another wonder kid. And by the way, I do not know. Briefly, before I continue with the conversation about Lyon, now that you've mentioned that, I can't help but wonder how clubs do manage this, especially clubs that we keep hearing that they do have financial struggles. Now, if you're Barcelona, I understand investing in a young kid, but also if you are struggling to get a deal over the line for Nico Williams, then you're spending £2 million on a youngster, unless it is not payable there and then I would understand. But sometimes we keep hearing clubs are in this dire financial situation, and yet they are going on to sign big players. I mean, we all season long, we've discussed about the dates of Manchester United. We've discussed Sir Jim Ratcliffe in his streaming of the squad staff, the Manchester United staff, to try and save money. We've had reports of food being taken away from non-playing staff. We've had things like, of course, player salaries, where he has issues, and they are trying to move on players that are on big wages. Marcus Rashford, Sancho. I often confuse the two, but Sancho, among others, really. And yet they are in the transfer market spending big, because they have signed Matthias Cunha for £62.5 million. Yes, it's not paid in one whole, and they are trying to pursue Brani Mbeumo, for whom they've made already a second bid in the excess of £60 million. So sometimes I'm like, I understand that sometimes it's based on the expectation of revenue that will come through during the course of a season or a financial year, but also maybe the media paints us an overly blown picture in regards to their finances, or in particular for Barcelona. When Barcelona were in that dire situation, they bet all their cards on winning major trophies to raise revenue, to get out of their financial jinx, and that's why they bought in Xavi, and Xavi was able to win them the Spanish La Liga, but he still fell short when it came to UEFA Champions League. I think that's around the same time when around the same time when they also played in the UEFA Europa League, a tournament they really did, but at least that's what I've gathered. But sometimes I struggle to sort of come to terms with it. If one report is saying, oh, these guys are financially really struggling, and yet on this side they are spending big. Just imagine being managing a home where you're, let's say, out of work, you're trying to feed, people are saying he can barely feed his family, and yet you're buying them chicken and meat every day. I understand they ought to stay fed and healthy, but the two often do not add up. But anyways, let's go to Lyon, because even with Lyon, it's money that is the problem. Money is the problem. Lyon are in debt, and that's why they've been relegated. Barcelona has funds, possibly are using this lack of money as a tactic. Our players want to play for Barcelona and may even want to play for lower wages. Yes, that's true. Players like Marcus Rashford have expressed that even if they ought to take a pay cut, so be it, if it means for playing for Barcelona. Same situation literally with Nico Williams. Yes, players do want to play for Barcelona, but let's not forget that they are also, their stadium in Camp Nou is undergoing renovations or redevelopment. So they've chunked out money on that side. And that's why, if I don't know if you've noticed, in in recent years, they've been really looking to the academy to bring in, young players from the academy. Pau Kubasi, Pedri and Gavi, academy graduates. Of course, Lamine Yamal, you remember, of course, when they brought in Lewandowski, it wasn't an expensive buy coming from Bayern Munich. I think it was Rafinha who was a bit of an expensive buy coming in from Leeds, but they've not really been spending big. If you compare it to the days when they signed Felipe Coutinho, Ousmane Dembele, and things of that nature. Arthur Melo, when he rewind it further back before he left for Juventus. So they've not been spending too much money. Even when they needed to sign a goalkeeper, although that was an emergency situation, they went for a Voksheshez, who was a free agent. But of course, that's the only player they could sign really at the top level. But they've signed Joan Garcia. And when you look around still, although they want to let go of one of their center backs, but they've not been really spending heavily. If you are to compare them to the likes of the Manchester City, by the bit of a similar situation with Real Madrid. Every one season they've been signing one or two big players, but still not quite expensively. You go back to Eduardo Camavinga and Aurelio Tchouameni. You look back at the situation with Jude Bellingham when he was joining them in the summer of 2023 for around 80 million euros. They did not spend much big beyond that. I think La Liga teams are trying to manage some financial situations, but I know that Barcelona are capable of signing players, but then their registration with La Liga tends to become an issue. You remember when they signed Sergio Kun Aguero as a free agent before his heart issues caused him to step down from football. They were struggling to register him. They struggled to register Dani Olmo because, again, they were being caught up by regulations and things of that nature. But now Olympique Lyon has been relegated because of having poorly managed finances. And their boss, John Textor, now they were pre-relegated back in November 2024. That was around the same time that UEFA wanted to knock them out of the UEFA Europa League. Now, of course, they did reach an agreement with UEFA's financial controlling body that they will get their house in order. They made the same promise to the French, to the DNCG, that's the body controlling, or monitoring these clubs and their finances, that they will have their house in order before June or before the end of June. And now they did have a meeting, that's John Textor, with his director of football at Lyon, and they could not convince the officials that they have things under control, and that's why they've been relegated to the second tier. Now, what does that mean for their appearance in the UEFA Conference League? Sorry, in the UEFA Europa League. Of course, that does not take away their deserved qualification to the competition. And I think they will ought to have a conversation with UEFA. Now, the advantage for the competition per se is that John Textor has agreed to part ways with Crystal Palace by selling his 43% shares. Now, please understand there's been a disparity between what has been reported on those shares. Some sources initially quoted 30%, others 43%, but it should be anywhere in between that. So he's sold his shares in Crystal Palace, but he owns about 88% or more in Lyon. That's John Textor, the American investor, with his Ego Sports, Ego Football, company. And things are not working out. And Lyon will have to sell players to raise money. That's why they sold Ryan Cherki. And I think partly why they were insisting to get higher fees from Manchester City because of their financial situation. By the time they met the officials in November, they were about 175 million euros in debt. Now, again, when I listen to this, it's not a staggering amount if you are to compare how big a debt, let's say a team like Manchester United has, a team like Real Madrid, because they did do a stadium redevelopment that was in the excess of €1 billion. So that means they ought to have gotten money from somewhere to do that. So why is it that 175 million euros is raising eyebrows and causing a historical team like Lyon, to be put in this kind of situation? Let's not forget, Lyon in itself is, I think, could be the second largest city after Paris. So with all that and the history that comes with the club, they have been regulars in the UEFA Champions League, reaching the semi-finals, reaching the quarterfinals, and yet they've gone cold in recent years and been playing largely in the UEFA Europa League. So I do not know, but there seems to be an issue with American-owned football teams. I do not know whether you will agree with me, but at least I won't say at all levels. But look at Manchester United, the owners that the fans are always complaining about. The Glazers from the USA. How many times did we hear Arsenal fans have quarrels over the Coronkis for their lack of investment in the team? Remember, this was pre-Arteta, Then we've had those rumors with Crystal Palace, because John Textor was still involved. We've had those rumors. We had them with. Let's wait and see what happens with Everton, because Everton are now being owned by an American, led group. Of course, the story of Chelsea is quite different, because Tony Body and his partner have really, really invested in Chelsea. That is without question. Liverpool is American owned, and again, now Liverpool also, because they sort of tend to live a strict model where their incomes ought to meet all their demands in terms of expenditures without needing external investment from their owners. That's the kind of team they've run, and it has worked really for some time. But also, if you do remember some comments from Jurgen Klopp in regards to, I think he was speaking in reference to Man City and PSG, and I do not remember the other team. He said there are only 3 teams in football that can spend however they want, and which is against the rules, but then they won't be touched. He made comments in that realm. And at the time, he went on to say, yes, we may spend maybe 50, 60 million on one player here, but then for others, we have to, rely on a youngster, go to a small team and buy a less known player. And he cited the likes of Gini Wijnaldum, Sadio Mane, and then once in a while, you'll buy a Virgil van Dijk, you'll buy a Darwin Nunes, you'll buy an Alson Ramses Baker, but then have to rely on all these and sort of little unknowns, really. That's the kind of model, again, he was explaining. But it then fell back to, I think, the owners being American, but also the way Liverpool wanted to run the club. But at least, I'm not saying entirely they do not invest in their clubs, but at least at some level or in some respect, you can acknowledge that in some cases they've been criticized for not investing well enough in their respective teams. Now, the Cronks, of course, have sort of drastically shifted their view or their mentality about spending on the team, because they've really quite spent heavily on the team during the reign of Mikel Arteta. But then again, it depends on who you compare them to. But when you look at 50 million pounds for Ben White, 35 or 30 million pounds for Aaron Ramsdale at the time, you look at Thomas Partey, 50 million euros, you look at bringing in Martin Odegaard. Yes, he wasn't the most expensive of buys, but you look at Declan Rice, you look at Kai Havertz, 65 million pounds, and things of that regard. So they've invested. You say, you came back to say that, but Barcelona will not want to break this mold once they offer fees and wages for one player. Everyone else currently in the club and wanting to join the club will realize they could also get higher. Now, again, briefly back to Barcelona. You remember, by the time Gerard Piqué left the club still owed him money from that COVID-19, period, because yes, players may have taken pay cuts and things of that nature, but Barcelona still owed players money, by the time Gerard Piqué left. So again, we all understand or are well aware of the effects of COVID itself and what it meant for teams, businesses, and everything globally, really. So in that context, you would understand. But if you do remember, Barcelona sold their rights, again, to try and invest in the team because they were struggling financially. But let's wait and see. Then you say, while Lyon did ask for higher fees for Ryan Cherki, 30 million is a bargain and couldn't help them match with the situation. Now, when it came to Lyon, of course, the player wanted to leave, and remember, they are also under pressure to sell. So you may want to stick it out. Manchester City have really have time on their side. They could have simply said, okay, let's sacrifice this. Let's not get the player before the kickoff of the FIFA World Cup. We'll come back at the tail end of June and then perhaps even offer less. So, and then also the player had already expressed that he wanted to leave. So there's that. So you do have a player that already wants to leave. You have this bad financial situation that you're trying to mitigate. And yes, Ryan Cherki was one of your assets, but your bargaining power was quite low. And to be honest with them, they did try to stick it to Man City, because initially we were hearing fees of around 20 to 25 million euros. And then it went up to as high as 30 something, with of course about 5 or 6 unexpected add-ons and things of that regard. So there, I thought their hand was also forced in a bit. And by Lacazette, left the club as a hero, of course, as a legend. And apparently the club still owe him money. So that's the situation with Lyon as well. Then you did say, could it be due to Trump? I certainly do not want to think it's due to Trump, even though he encourages people to invest in America before investing elsewhere. I do not really want to think of it that way. Barcelona still owe Liverpool 100 million for Coutinho. Really? No. I know it is possible that they still owe Liverpool, but to still owe them up to 100 million? Now that's just no. When did Coutinho join Barcelona? I mean, it's been quite long. I mean, the player has since even left, has since left Barcelona. Let's find out. When did Coutinho join Barcelona? because I know it was after Dembele had joined. That was around before the 2019 season. Yes, in January 2018. That's when he joined. Now it's been what? Almost that's almost 6 years, and they still owe them that much. No, I'm not inclined to believe it's still 100 million. Although there still could be a debt, depending because basically Coutinho left before his time at Barcelona was supposed to end because it just didn't work out for him at Barcelona. But yeah, finances are a big issue for these clubs really, and things are really not happening the way they hope they want them to happen in that regard. But anyways, let's leave that and speak. Yeah, but clubs do that in terms of delaying payments. That I certainly agree with you. They do delay payments. Then they do delay payments. I think it's typical of accountants. I do not know. For example, in our line of work, I'm a digital marketer, and you send out an invoice, and then somebody, an accountant, keeps stringing you along until a certain period, until time has passed. So they tend to do that. But I'm sure contracts cover some of these clubs in regards to payment terms. And whenever a club doesn't pay, they can always, petition. Is it FIFA or the body is responsible to try and compel these clubs to pay? Anyways, let's go to transfers because Paul Pogba to AC Monaco is a here we go. Verbal agreement is in place for a 2-year contract for the 32-year-old French international to join AC Monaco. Final details have been sorted out. That's according to Fabrizio Romano, and everything is in place for him to complete that move. It is a similar situation with Ansu Fati, only that Ansu Fati first renewed his contract with Barcelona and now is going out on loan to AC Monaco with an option to buy. Now, I think this is similar to the situation we saw with David Raya before making the switch to Arsenal for his loan spell. That was 2023-2024. He first renewed his contract with Brentford, extending it for a further year before making the move to protect Brentford. Because then that meant, because if he had gone out on loan to Arsenal without signing a new contract, it would have meant by the end of that season, his contract with Brentford would have run out. So it's a bit of a similar situation in this case. So you get the player to sign a contract, you protect yourself, and then send him out on loan. And then if it works out, they get to buy him permanently for a certain fee. And in this particular case, the initial reported fee for Ansu Fati was in the region of 12 million euros. Should he impress at AC Monaco? And that deal is also, he is expected to travel to France today and complete his medicals before sealing that move to AC Monaco. Now, that means they will be adding Paul Pogba and Ansu Fati, but apparently they've sort of stepped back on their interest or their pursuit for Andre Onana. Conversations did not advance beyond the inquiries for the interest in the 29-year-old Manchester United goalkeeper, who Manchester United really want to let go. And find a replacement, and they are considering Emi Martinez from Aston Villa. They are considering Marco Casenecchi, that's the 24-year-old Italian goalkeeper at Atlanta, as well as Andre Looney from Real Madrid. Those are the goalkeeping considerations for Manchester United. About Paul Pogba, you say Paul Pogba got off too lightly. I do not think so. Allow me beg to differ on this one, because when apparently he was found in breach of the anti-doping rules, that was in the 2023-2024 season. Of course, he denied all sorts of allegations. We know he had been struggling with injuries, so must have taken treatment, maybe beyond the scope of what was required, or something was recommended to him that he did consume. He was desperate to get back on the turf because he was on good wages, on a very good contract at Juventus, and things of that nature. And then mentally or psychologically, players want to be on the pitch. It's one of their escape ways to life, but also it's what they are paid to do. So they love to do what they are paid for, really. So he was found in breach of the anti-doping rules and initially was handed a 4-year ban. Now, he did appeal that decision, which was then reduced to 1.5 years after he had already served a couple of months. So I do not see it really that way, that he got off really lightly, because 1.5 years for a professional footballer, a player the caliber of Paul Pogba, it's really, really never small. It's really, really never small. Yes, I do understand that maybe some people were not convinced that it was an accidental ingestion of these drugs, because usually for some of these substances, it's not like the way a player goes out to say and smoke weed, the way we had with Rio Ferdinand in years gone by, that a player goes out and outright really smokes weed, and maybe which is not accepted in the realm of sport. But let's say you took, I'm not saying this is a particular case, but I'm just using it as an example to explain this. Let's say you took nutritional boosters, and then unknowingly to you, they contained a substance that are not accepted, because then when you go to do a test, traces of that same substance is found in your body. But then you're going to be telling people, I did take nothing. I took A, B, C, D. I took vitamins. My agent recommended, or my minders, my nutritionist, my physio recommended that I take A, B, C, D. Unfortunately, you get off that way. Then it's not too different from what Tingas first. Mukalo Modric, again, he also alleged the same, that you could not intentionally ingest what was banned. And in his case, he was found to with traces of melodium. That's a substance that is banned for use for sports personalities. And and for him, it happened while he was on duty with the national team. That's Ukraine. And when he came back, he had the positive test. Of course, he's since been on provisional suspension. Now, FA came out to confirm that they will be formally charging him for being found in breach of those anti-doping rules. He's on a very long-term contract with Chelsea. I think he did sign a 7.5-year contract with an option to extend it for a further year. Of course, so far, 2 years in, it's not really worked out. It's not really worked out, but let's wait and see. You continue to say drug charges are usually very serious. True, they are usually very serious. So some players get lifetime bans, but since Pogba is a good player, just ban for a few years. I think it depends on what you took and how you took it. Like I've given the example, vitamins, if they, let's say, contained a particular set of vitamins that, or nutritional substances or boosters that then contain what a substance that is banned, I'm sure you cannot end up with the same sentence with somebody that, let's say, did consume cannabis, because practically we may assume you either sniffed it or went and outrightly smoked it, maybe at a party or things of that nature. So there's that bit of context to it, really. So anyways, then according to Ben Jacobs, Barcelona are considering a loan move for Marcus Rashford, even though their number one priority is Nico Williams. Rashford's clear preference is Barcelona, and he is willing to play in a more central role in Hansi Flick's system. So, I mean, Marcus Rashford, just the other day, I did an interview with some YouTubers, and outrightly said it, that he would love to join Barcelona, that he would want to play with some of the best players there is out there. So really, and by the way, if I'm Barcelona, player is willing to join, he's willing to take a pay cut. You can't get him on loan, really, although Manchester United would prefer to sell at a fee of £40 million. I mean, you go for him, would be a good squad player, really. Marcus Rashford. I'm thinking to myself, as a squad player, would I take him to Arsenal? Yeah, I would. On loan, I would. Maybe with an option to buy at the end of, if the loan is successful. But there is a very, very good player there in Marcus Rashford. So he has no future at Manchester United. Pretty much that is the acclaimed situation, unless something changes between now and then. But now this is the challenge again. Manchester United have outrightly, literally said it. They want to move on the player. The player has outrightly shown he wants to leave. So when it comes to negotiations, usually you're in a weaker position as Manchester United because whoever is buying knows you want to get rid of the player. He's on high wages. If he's not going to be playing and he's on high wages, it still costs you. So you become desperate to let him go. Anyways, that situation is also there, but we'll keep tabs on it as well and see where everything leads in respect to what should be expected on that. Then Napoli and Fenerbahce are really interested in signing Jadon Sancho for Manchester United. We all know that Manchester United want about 25 million pounds to let go of the 25-year-old England attacking midfielder. And it is Fenerbahce, in terms of salaries, that have given Tebot the best offer. They are willing to pay him slightly north of 160,000 pounds per week. That's almost half of what he's earning at Manchester United. But I do not think teams that are interested in his services would be willing to offer anything more than that, really. Napoli, I do not think Napoli can afford those wages for Sancho, although they are interested. They are also interested in that's Napoli. Excuse me. Napoli, they are interested in signing Darwin Núñez from Liverpool, and they got a green light from Darwin Núñez's camp, and now they are expected to advance on club-to-club talks for the signing of the 25-year-old Uruguayan striker. That's Darwin Núñez. Let's keep our eyes on that as well. Then Kepa Arrizabalaga is expected at London Colony this week to finalize a move from Chelsea. Then Chelsea are also advancing in talks for Jamie Gittens with Borussia Dortmund. Meetings did take place between the two parties on Monday this week, and that deal is expected to advance in the coming days, despite interest from Bayern Munich. Jamie Gittens is giving priority to Chelsea, who he has already agreed with personal terms with on a 7-year contract, only 20 years of age, so that's beautiful. Then Nottingham Forest did turn down a bid in the region of 45 million pounds for Anthony Elanga. The Swedish star is not for sale at Nottingham Forest. They do maintain, but also his valuation is at 60 million pounds for those that really want to sign him from Nottingham Forest, but they would rather not sell, given that they have to play at the UEFA Conference League in the coming season. Then okay, yes, Anthony Elanga is done, Núñez is done, as well as Jamie Gittens. So of course, we've spoken about Jadon Sancho and Fenerbahce, and those are some of the interesting deals. Then Tottenham are seriously considering making a move for Eberechi Eze should they fail in their pursuit for Bryan Mbeumo. And we all know that Bryan Mbeumo has chosen United over any other suitors, and United did make a second bid in the excess of 60 million pounds to try and sign him from Brentford. We are yet to get feedback on that offer, on whether it has been accepted or rejected, but we keep waiting to hear on that front. So then, but Man United are expected to really advance on that deal. Then Randall Colomwani is not under consideration for Chelsea, despite fresh links. Colomwani wants to stay at Juventus. PSG want about 45 million euros for Randall Colomwani. Remember, he's on loan to Juventus. He's still a PSG player. They signed him quite expensively. I think over 90 million euros when they were signing Randall Colomwani. Then excuse me, there's some news that did come on my screen, and it was sort of I wouldn't say interesting, but a bit unwelcome, I must say. Anyways, that's part of that. Then PSG are not willing to let go of Bradley Bacola, who is a target for Arsenal, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich. But Liverpool and Uruguayan striker Darwin Núñez has preferred Napoli. We've spoken about that. Spoken about Nottingham Forest's rejection of Anthony's bid. Marcus Rashford done. Then Newcastle are willing to make 25-year-old Sweden striker Alexander Isak the best player in the club's history to word of interest from Liverpool, Barcelona, and Arsenal. Then Fenerbahce interested in Man United's Jadon Sancho. Sunderland have asked Sassuolo about the availability of 26-year-old French winger Amandi Laurenti, while Everton and Man United are interested in signing Leicester City's 28-year-old Nigerian midfielder Wilfred Ndidi, and then Nottingham Forest and Olympique Marseille are interested in Ajax's 35-year-old England midfielder Jordan Henderson. That's according to the Mail. While Leeds are yet to receive an offer for 25-year-old French goalkeeper Ilan Marsilia. Despite reports he is due to have a medical with Fenerbahce. While Bilbao's Spanish forward Nico Williams, when his contract, has told the club he intends to move to Barcelona. Everton, Brentford, West Ham, and Fulham are considering the move for Ipswich's 21-year-old England under-21s winger Omari Hudson, while Burnley are preparing a 12 million bid for Lazio's 21-year-old French under-21s forward Lau Towana. So there you have it. That's the gossip in regards to transfers. Arsenal and their striking situation, there are no new developments really in that respect, in that regard. But Atletico Madrid did edging closer to sign Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis in a deal believed to be about 30 million euros. So expect that to work out really smoothly. Then they are also trying to sign Alex Baena from Villarreal, as well as they retain interest in Andy Robertson. Yes, in Andy Robertson from Liverpool. But should they fail with that, then they will have to go for Lucas Digne from Aston Villa. Then apparently Anthony Gordon would prefer a move to Liverpool as opposed to Arsenal, who are all interested in signing the England winger. So pretty much that's it in regards to the latest news or the hottest news in regards to major transfers from the Premier League and slightly beyond. Bayern Munich are yet to decide, but they are now interested in Gabriel Martinelli, Nico Williams, Bradley Bacola, Rafael Leao, Kaoru Mitoma, and who is the other? For their preferred choice of a winger. But let's wait and see. Jack Grealish still expected to leave Man City. A lot of offers, but none have approached Man City over doing a deal for the 29-year-old England forward. But let's wait and see. Anyways, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this with you once again this Wednesday morning. Let's catch up once again later today in the night or during the course of the day, should there be some hot news to really share. Stay blessed and have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much, Zero Requiem, for this wonderful engagement for today's morning's broadcast. For those of you that do watch our content after this live broadcast, we do not take you for granted. We really appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much and have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye-bye.